Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me. How you guys doing? So today I'm interested in reacting to the Düsseldorf airport blaze. The worst airport fire in history, apparently, happened in Düsseldorf at the airport. Well, I guess it would have had to have happened at the airport, huh? Considering it's the worst airport fire. Anyway, I didn't know this happened. I don't know if that's embarrassing to admit, but, I'm admitting it. I don't know. I hope not. I hope nobody died. I don't know anything about this. So I see it has 1 million views. That is a lot. Go check out Dark Records, link down below. Let's do it.
As one of Germany's top airports and one of the 20 largest in Europe, Düsseldorf Airport is as busy as it can be. It is early afternoon of April 11th, 1996, and as usual, the arrivals are pouring in. The first level of Terminal A is swarming with passengers. While some wait for their luggage, others rush to departure gates to catch the next flight. Hundreds of people are in motion. They are unaware that hidden just 10 feet above them, a disaster is unfolding. A taxi driver is on the scene, waiting for customers. In a crowded terminal, he is the first to notice something suspicious. Sparks are falling from the drop ceiling in the arrivals area. The time is 3:33 p.m. and two
Sparks are falling from the ceiling.
Firefighters of the airport fire department arrive at the scene. There's a particular odor in the air, but they cannot locate its source.
And it hasn't set off a fire alarm yet?
It's as if an electrical installation is smoldering. From the nearby flower shop, a saleswoman points to a thin column of smoke coming from the vent. It's a fire. Suddenly, the ceiling begins to glow, and burning embers start falling. There's no time to waste, and the firefighters on site alert the entire airport fire brigade. Within minutes, dozens of firefighters arrive. They bring everything they have with them, but the fire is nowhere to be seen. It's hidden above the drop tiles.
Whoa, dude.
Then, at 3:58 p.m.,
So it spread so quickly because it was hidden up there, I guess.
the blaze reveals itself in full force. The ceiling throughout the entire terminal engulfs in flames. The airport is on fire, and it's a massive one. On that fateful afternoon, welders worked on an expansion joint on the elevated access road above Terminal A. The workers started welding at 1 p.m., blissfully unaware of the dangers they were creating. Tiny droplets of molten metal were falling onto the top layer of the terminal. Between the ceiling and the road was a layer of polystyrene insulation that was highly combustible. For more than 2 hours, the insulation was heating up to the level of flashover. Gases released by the slow combustion of polystyrene filled a confined space above the ceiling. When the temperature of these gases reached its peak, they ignited simultaneously
Holy shit.
throughout the entire terminal.
What a disaster.
In a split second, a massive fire engulfed the entire ceiling. Paradoxically, the airport firefighters knew nothing about handling indoor fires.
I guess they just are mainly for fires on planes?
They were trained to put out plane fires. The Düsseldorf Fire Brigade was then called to help and arrived at the airport at 4:07 p.m. At that point, the fire had spread to the terminal's second level. A blaze of such proportions was simply too much for the 2 fire trucks and 1 water tanker to handle. 8 minutes later, the commanding officer on scene called all city units and neighboring municipalities to respond immediately. The Düsseldorf City Fire Brigade comprises paid and volunteer firefighters stationed in 7 full-time and 10 volunteer stations. 120 permanent firefighters and 250 volunteers staff each shift.
Remarkable how there's more volunteers than paid. And I'm well aware that that's there's a strong community of volunteer firefighters and strong network of volunteer firefighters and stuff in Germany. Pretty neat.
Along with firefighters from the airport and nearby municipalities, 701 firefighters and 215 vehicles were on the scene to extinguish the blaze and save the people inside.
Oh my God.
The Düsseldorf firefighters hadn't experienced a fire of this size for a long time. One of them recollected using a hose pumping 50 gallons of water per minute with no success. Only after switching to a 4 times larger hose did they begin to suppress the fire. The moment when the city fire brigade was called to help at 4:07, The airport alarm system instructed travelers to evacuate the building. The voice message initially pointed people in the wrong direction.
There's always some shit like that that happens in these disasters. And I mean, you know, what can you do? I don't know, man. It's a hectic environment. You hate to blame the dude who said the wrong direction, but, you know, it's a hectic environment. Nobody knows what to do. They're trying to do their best. That sucks. That's horrible.
Straight toward the burning section.
Oh, my God.
Thankfully, the firefighters intervened in time to correct the mistake and prevent a fatal outcome.
Oh, good.
By the time the general alarm went off, level 1 of the terminal had already been evacuated. However, there were still more than 2,000 people on levels 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Why are there so many levels in this airport? The heck? Most airports I've ever been to only have like 2 levels. Mostly 1. Oh my God. That just makes it so much worse to have a fire with multiple stories.
As well as in the adjacent garage. They had little time to evacuate as the blaze rapidly spread. The fire engulfed the terminal's entire inventory on level 1, including heavy rubber conveyor belts that produced a thick, hazardous smoke.
Oh my God.
Smoke and fire traveled through staircases, escalator openings, and cable and air ducts in the ceiling to level 2. The second level was 30 feet tall, twice as high as the first, but had a smaller surface area. Inside it was a mezzanine level 3 with airport lounges, both floors quickly filled with smoke. While a group of firemen fought the fire on level 1, their colleagues were engaged in rescuing the people on higher floors. Teams of paramedics gathered in the front of the airport to treat.
That's extremely brave, man. That's very brave. Because at any moment all that could collapse.
The injured, most of which suffered from breathing problems.
Or the exit could collapse. Obviously. You know, that is so dangerous.
Thick smoke and high temperatures made it difficult for firefighters to locate people inside the terminal.
Hallo, ich spreche Deutsch. Wir sind im Erfrausalon für die Frequent-Traveler und wir kriegen keine Luft mehr hier drin.
Oh, man.
Versuchen Sie da rauszukommen. Wir haben einen größeren Brand.
Einen großen Brand.
Ja, versuchen Sie irgendwie das zu verlassen.
Die können wir die Fenster einschlagen.
Es geht nicht.
Why does he say don't do? I'm curious. Is that a safety? Why not? Dude, I'm smashing the window. I'm sorry. This dude's a saint for even asking, dude. That's so German, you know? Are we allowed to smash the window? Dude, get the hell out. Do whatever you need to do. That's my say. You don't gotta ask. But he might be asking because maybe that could cause, you know, more danger.
Das zu verlassen. Die können wir die Fenster einschlagen.
Dude, if you can't breathe, you gotta smash the window.
Es geht nicht.
In welche Richtung? Bei euren ja, wir sitzen überhalb.
I'm sorry, but that does make me mad that the guy on the phone is like, oh, don't do that. If possible. What do you mean, if possible? I just hope nobody died, dude. Seems unlikely at this point. You know, I know nothing about this, but hearing this playing out, it just sounds bad.
Lufthansa Check-in. Überhalb von dem Lufthansa Check-in.
Ja. In die Büroräume da.
Ja, genau. Wir brauchen unbedingt Hilfe. Wir können nicht raus. Alle Notausgänge sind verraucht.
Ja.
Bitte, kommen Sie.
Gut.
Wir brauchen Sie.
Smash the
In one
window.
case, 9 passengers were trapped in Air France's airport lounge. It was a self-service salon, with no staff present to guide occupants to safety. Multiple phone calls were made from the lounge, the last one at 4:19.
Hallo?
Ja, geben Sie jetzt genaue Angabe, wo Sie sitzen.
Im ersten Stock.
Gas ist okay. Moment. Gas ist okay.
Es gibt die Lufthansa. Quick Check-in. Ja. Und da drüber sind wir. Man geht praktisch um die Ecke.
Quick Check-in. Überhalb der Lufthansa.
Ja, es gibt die Lufthansa Quick Check-in.
Ja. Okay.
Und da drüber die Treppe hoch.
Ja, okay.
Although one of the
Jesus Christ, man. So awful and reminiscent once again of, well, did I even say this? it's reminiscent of 9/11 to me. You know what I mean? There's a lot of famous voice messages from people on the planes as they're being hijacked, you know, and I mean, these are two very different circumstances, but at the end of the day, it's similar. You know, these people are in peril. And to hear what could be their last words is honestly a little bit too devastating for me, you know what I mean? It's hard to take in. But it's almost like out of respect, I do want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Callers described their location. No one among the rescuers was familiar with the terminal layout.
I didn't know this video would be like this, though, where it's this devastating. I still don't know if anybody died. You know, hopefully not.
Only 25 feet from the nearest
Of course they did.
escape route, all but one occupant died from suffocation. To escape, a French businessman smashed a window with a chair and fell 4 meters to the lower level.
I am just honestly pissed hearing that, and then, you know, considering what the dude on the phone said. How dare you tell me not to smash the window? You know what I mean? Why not? The whole building's on fire, man. What are we trying to do? Save the window? This guy apparently saved his life by smashing the window, and you told people not to. That I just don't have much sympathy for, because I don't, you know, it's different than the man who said the wrong direction. That's an accident. It's not an accident to say, no, try not to smash the window. You know, we don't want you doing that. Screw you, man. By any means necessary, do whatever you think is best. How about that?
A French businessman smashed a window with a chair and fell 4 meters to the lower level. He suffered serious injuries, but fully recovered. Another
Hey, I mean, that's not that far. 4 meters. It's only like 14 feet, but it's not that far.
group of people were on the roof of the adjacent car garage when the fire broke out. They were watching planes take off and land. As soon as they noticed smoke coming from the terminal below them, they ran out to the exit. Unfortunately, they made the wrong choice by escaping from the roof via elevators. The elevators opened into the first level, which was alight. Due to the thick smoke that filled the hall, the sensors were jammed, and the door remained open. They too died of
Jesus.
suffocation.
I don't like it's hearing individual accounts, you know, like that, and just putting yourself in their shoes is just so sad to me.
There were also
Just
3
horrible.
police officers trapped inside the terminal who were more fortunate. When they realized the fire surrounded them, they radioed their colleague in his office. Ernst G. Walter rushed inside the terminal to save the 3, but was repelled by thick, toxic smoke. To escape the burning airport, the policemen tried everything in their power. With a pickaxe, they tried to break a window, but were unsuccessful. There wasn't much they could do. At the last moment,
The windows were that strong?
a group of firefighters wearing protective smoke gear appeared at the door. They found the 3 policemen lying on the floor, still breathing.
Wow.
Then, through the smoke and flames, they were all taken to safety. For nearly 4 hours, firefighters battled to put out the fire. Finally, at 7:20 p.m., the fire brigade declared it under control. The last pockets of the blaze were extinguished 2 hours later. The fire and smoke destroyed terminals A and B. Düsseldorf Airport reopened 3.5 days later, with only Terminal C functioning. It quickly returned to 90%
Well, that's pretty remarkable that it even opened at all within days.
of its previous capacity, using temporary terminals made of tents and hangars. In the end, 17 people lost their lives in the fire. 8 of them died in the lounge, 7 in the elevators. A passenger was found dead in the lavatory, and a woman who escaped the airport died 2 weeks later from her injuries. All victims died from suffocation or smoke inhalation. If it weren't for the brave reaction of the firefighters, the death toll would have been much higher. Approximately 2,000 passengers were saved from the fire. About 66 to 82 had serious injuries, and several hundred suffered minor injuries. The deaths of 17 people, hundreds of injuries, and damage of $1 billion German marks, which was more than $600 million US at the time, called for a thorough investigation.
It's remarkable how just from some sparks from a welding torch, you know. This is why regulations are so important. You know, and a lot of people are annoyed by that or whatever, but, you know, that's why it's important. It's amazing what just one wrong move can do. One wrong move. Welding above that insulation. And it cost 600, well, most importantly, it cost 17 people their life. And it also cost $600 million. Crazy.
There was no doubt that droplets of molten metal that
Rest in peace to those people.
fell on the insulation caused the fire. A 3-inch thick layer of highly flammable polystyrene insulation was installed illegally below the concrete deck of the access road. Between it and the arrival hall suspended ceiling, there was nothing but an unprotected void. The insulation layer was too close to the upper deck and exposed to hot metal from the welding. The droplets burned the polystyrene insulation, which created a massive amount of gases and increased the temperature in the void. At one point, the temperature reached the critical point and ignited 1,000 square feet of the ceiling.
Holy.
From there, the fire spread to the rest of the terminal. However, apart from the issue with the insulation, the investigation commission determined that a number of other
What a photo with the burned roses. Wow.
factors contributed to the fire and turned it into a tragedy. The first was the failure of workers performing welding operations on the road above Level 1 to take appropriate precautions. Their employer did not inform the airport fire brigade about the repair works. If they had been notified as required, the fire brigade would have set up a fire watch. On the other
Are you serious, dude? That just pisses me off.
hand, the airport fire brigade was unprepared and untrained for indoor fire scenarios, and their knowledge of the airport layout was inadequate. Perhaps the most crucial factor was the airport's lack of an appropriate fire detection system. The east
Wow, so much.
end of the building, where Terminal A was located, had no smoke detectors or sprinklers.
A lot of times that does seem like how these giant disasters happen, is just series of bad things, you know? Which, of course, any one of those things happens all around the world every day. You know, there's someone welding not properly, but, you know, like the other two things are in place. It's when all three things aren't in place that a serious tragedy unfolds, you know?
Part of the airport was built in 1972 when such systems were not mandatory. There were dry standpipes in the stairwells, but these were not connected to the municipal water supply and had to be operated by firefighters. Additionally, the terminal had no roll-down fire doors, no protection for vertical openings between floors, and no emergency exit stairwells on the air side. The fire could have been contained at Level 1 if roll doors and vertical protections were available. There was also a responsibility on the part of the airport security officials, who failed to turn off the elevators once the fire started. 7 people were killed as a result of this negligence. By the end of the year, a court trial was opened. The public prosecutor's office filed a 700-page indictment against 2 welders, the technical director of the airport, the architect, and the building inspectors and supervisors. A mammoth trial with 26 defense attorneys, 94 witnesses, and an army of press representatives promised that the justice would be fulfilled. However, it turned...
I'm torn on that, you know? I feel like most people are torn on that, where it's like, yeah, people need to be held accountable, but also, like, any one of those people, you know, who knows to what degree they are... Well, I guess that's what the whole court is for, you know? It should go to trial, and it should all be discovered to what extent anybody was culpable.
into a long game of formal legal dodgings. Surprisingly, the trial was concluded 5.5 years later, with all defendants acquitted.
Oh, well, okay. It's kind of the opposite of what I was expecting. I thought maybe they'd be too harshly punished, you know, for murder or something. But they're all acquitted. Okay, well, I don't know.
According to the
They
verdict,
very well could be one of those things where any one of them didn't really, like, you know, have too much culpability themselves, but all of their, you know, negligence combined caused a disaster.
the accident that claims 17 lives could not be traced to any specific wrongdoing of a single defendant. The airport authorities, however, were determined not to repeat the mistakes from the past. As a result,
good.
the renewed Terminal A and newly built Terminal B are equipped with fire detectors, sprinklers, automatic fire alarms, fire reporting, and smoke clearing systems. In addition, 36 security exits were made, and dividers were installed within and between levels to slow down the spread of fire and smoke. Most importantly, the insulation panels, the furniture, and the inventory are made from non-combustible materials. Indeed, there was a strong wish for tragedies like 1996 to never happen again. When it comes to people's lives, there's no safety procedure that can't be followed, and no price that can't be paid. Watch this episode next if you...
Wow, that was a very good little history lesson on this horrible disaster. That was very sad. Yeah, hearing the people's voice is genuinely heartbreaking. You can hear the quiet panic in the man's voice when he says, "Wir brauchen Sie." We need you. I can tell this is a German man writing this because panic is spelled like that. Yeah, he says, "We need you," you know. Desperate for help. It's horrible. Can we smash a window? If there's a fire that threatens my life, I'm not waiting. You know, and that genuinely was a very interesting moment in this to me because it's Germans are so, I don't know, good at following what's right and wrong, but in this instance, you know, when there's total chaos and catastrophe and every man is fighting for his life, it bit them to ask permission. You know what I mean? This is not, you know, at that point you're in the wild practically. You're out there fighting in the wild for your life. You know. Exactly the answer. Wenn es geht nicht. Absolute disregard. Yeah, it's disgusting. If anything, that guy should be on trial. You know, I think that's unacceptable. You could have translated the quote, "The translation function can't handle two languages." Actually, it seems like it can. It worked for me. If it's not possible. He's saying, like, don't do it unless you have to, you know. God, what a terrible answer. I can't stand hearing that type of thing. That's just... All right. Thanks for watching. Rest in peace to the victims, even though, of course, this was a long time ago. But still. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.